the wheel probably started off as a square block, right? But then after a while, someone thought, well, this is a piece of crap. I can't roll this. I can't do it. So you make a wheel, right? And I think that's where the corn syrup is, where it's that using that high fructose corn syrup is coming up because it's cheaper and it's shelf stable. It's fairly easy to store, and there's a lot of it. And I think like when we're driven a lot by the almighty dollar, so like let's say Coke, you know, when you get that all natural cane sugar bottle Coke thing, it's like $2.50 a bottle. I mean, it's expensive, and I mean, like, it's kind of a cool deal, and it's all natural and yummy. But like, when I can get a 6-pack for $2 or for $3, it's kind of hard to.
Want the all natural.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And some of them are not only driven by cost, but some of those funky ingredients that you find on the label are there for preservatives. So you want this to last a year. Sometimes you have to put in certain things into that product to make it last longer. Or even sometimes you stick it in there to help the plant out. So you have, within here, you have a seasoning blend, and you need it to flow from that side of the building to this side of the building. And maybe you need to add a certain ingredient into that seasoning blend so that it travels evenly through the piping to where you want it to go. So some of it's cost driven and some of it's processing driven. But a lot of, I would say all of it is driven by what we want the consumer to feel as being a quality product.
Okay.
Would you say there's a lot of overlay on formulas?
Describe overlay.
In the sense we had a speaker last week from Schwann's, and he said that he would have like 5 or 6 projects at one time, and they sometimes overlay, like there are certain products that each of the other projects had, and they found something that would work for that project, but so it also worked for the other project. It's just something different in the ingredient list. Would you say that's the same for you then?
I think so. Yeah, I definitely think so. I think where overlay happens a lot in my particular business, potatoes is ingredient driven. So let's say that one day they come up with, I'll use the cheese powder example. A company comes to us with cheese powder that's 2 cents cheaper a pound, and we want to incorporate that into a mashed potato project, right? But the same cheese powder is used in my casserole product, and I want to save money, and I want to squeeze out as much money as I can, so that once I incorporate that particular flavor or powder into this mash product, maybe then I take that flavor and incorporate it into the casserole or a different product. Similarly, I think back to like tolerance, for example, all of these mashed products that are out there all have the same prep directions. So you add the same amount of liquid, the same amount of butter, and you cook it the same exact way. So you could, in a sense, if you developed one process, you've developed them all. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's not typical that it overlaps, but it happens. Yes. Am I over time?
No, you're 5.
Okay. Actually, you know what? Does that work?
I'm curious, I always wondered first, where do the potatoes come from in these kind of products? So I'm assuming General Mills doesn't grow and make the potatoes and when freeze dry them or something? I'm assuming you buy that from a supplier. And I was just wondering, does it matter what potatoes go into it? Because I know if you're cooking potatoes at home, different potatoes have different flavors and so.
Yep, so we do source our potatoes from several different companies. mainly in the West Coast. Can't go into specifics,
Well, yeah,
but
obviously.
mainly in the West Coast. And yes, definitely varieties make a large amount of difference. And this is kind of where culinology of the food science part comes in, because some of those different varieties have different potato solid counts. So let's say that you have, I don't know, a russet potato, but there's like 5 different varieties of russet. So you have Burbanks, and Alturas, and Orcotas, and I've spent way too much time on potatoes that I know that kind of stuff. You have those different varieties, and each of those potato flakes, even if they're processed and dried and made into the same type of powder, right? If you stick them in and make them the same way, one will be fluffy, one will be this soupy, grainy mess, and one will be somewhere in between. So it definitely plays a role in figuring out the variety, and sometimes those varieties are also have different costs associated with it. Some are more rare. Some of the, usually the ones that are more rare are the ones that we really like.
How easy was it for you to find a job when you graduated college? And were there like a lot of opportunities for you, or was it just like general mills?
Good one.
Not the general mills is bad.
To be honest, it took a little bit of time. When I graduated, my wife was already up in Minneapolis at Target, and I was in Lincoln, Nebraska. So my contacts were in a different state, essentially. And since my wife had a stable position, I went to Minneapolis. And so I spent about a month of searching online, going on what do we call it, monster.com, looking for different job postings, and I contacted the RCA. You guys are familiar with RCA here at all? So I contacted their rep and tried to get contacts through them to see if there were any postings. And jobs are definitely out there. I started as not as in my current role. I started as kind of a what do you call it? A temporary person. So when I started at General, I was doing the same job position, but I was as a temporary, and then just through the amount of time that I spent, I was hired on. And I think that's I mean, if you're worried about jobs, and especially now, you know, think about it like this. Having that culinology degree is rare, and it makes it special, and it makes you special compared to that other person that has just the food science degree. And if you can show your skills and you can demonstrate that what you've done and the program that you've done sets you apart, then I would have confidence that you'd be able to find something. Go ahead.
Say after a while, like, I'm sure after a certain point you're gonna get tired of working with potatoes. Say after a certain point,
Yep.
would you be able to switch it to a different division in General Mills instead of, so you can move to say like their cereal branch or something, instead of just sticking with potatoes?
It's actually highly encouraged to transfer between roles in General Mills. They feel it makes you a better employee to understand. Let's say that now that I've worked in dry, maybe I want to go work in yogurt, and something totally different where it's not dry, it's refrigerated, and it's yogurt, and it's more food processing driven. So it's highly encouraged. Depending on what you come in at, it takes a little bit more time. So in my role, I may need to spend 2 or 3 years in my position in order to think about moving around. In other positions, let's say if you came in at a PhD and you had a certain level of training, they would want to spread your knowledge around a little bit more.
Okay.
A little bit faster.
Okay, time for one more, and then we gotta let y'all go.
Oh, that's right. I haven't asked this question.